The Voyager 2 probe, which has been traveling through space for almost half a century, has had a new setback. And I say new because 3 years ago it already turned off part of its instruments automatically after detecting an error in a command. Well, it has happened again. When it first happened in 2020, the error in the command caused the probe to enter safe mode and turn off all its instruments to avoid further damage, because it is programmed to do these types of safety actions when it detects an error. Finally, engineers on Earth were able to send the necessary commands to reset the instruments, something that is not easy since the probe is currently more than 20 billion kilometers from Earth. In fact, since 2018 it has already been in interstellar space, that is, it has left our solar system. Due to this tremendous distance, communications with the probe have a latency of no more and no less than 18 hours. In other words, each message and command ordered from Earth takes 18 hours to reach the probe. And then, obviously, you have to wait another 18 hours for the response to arrive. Day and a half just to find out if an order given to the probe's software has had an effect or not. Well, what happened now could be more serious. A few days ago the news broke that on July 21st, a routine command sent to Voyager 2 accidentally caused its antenna to deviate by just 2 degrees with respect to Earth. 2 degrees is very little, yes, but due to the great distance that separates the probe from Earth, 2 degrees is enough to be unable to receive commands or transmit data back to our planet. And of course, if it can't receive data, the probe can't be told to point toward Earth again. Luckily, the security software installed on the probe could be the key to re-establishing the connection. I'll tell you now, but obviously this is very worrying, because even though the Voyagers have very few years left to live, I think no one is yet prepared to lose them permanently. And even less so now that they are sending such interesting data from the interstellar medium, a totally unexplored region. In fact, the Voyager 2 probe and its sister Voyager 1 are the only ones to have reached this region. They are the furthest probes we have. And yes, scientists at NASA know that the last instruments of these 2 sister probes will be turned off by 2030 at the latest, and that we will stop receiving telemetry data in 2036. This is because, as you may have already noticed, the probes they have solar panels. And although they would have been useful during the first years of the mission when they were closer to the sun, right now the probes would no longer be working, since even though sunlight continues to reach there, this light would no longer be intense enough to be able to keep the probe operational. What they actually have is a radioisotope thermoelectric generator. Well, in fact, they have 3 of these devices. It is a device that, thanks to the radioactive material inside, specifically 4.5 kilos of plutonium-238, generates heat, and that heat is used by this device to convert it into electricity. Furthermore, this heat is vital to keep the instruments warm since in deep space more than 20 billion kilometers from the sun, it is precisely not hot, so to prevent the instruments from freezing the probe must be constantly heating them. It is a device much heavier than solar panels, but it is nevertheless chosen for these long-duration missions because it allows energy to be obtained for much longer without the need to always be oriented towards the sun. In fact, the new rovers that we have sent to Mars and whose missions have to last many years, already carry this type of technology to prevent them from being affected by the incessant Martian dust that can cover their solar panels completely. This, for example, is what has already happened to many exploration robots. And in fact, the last one to leave us was NASA's Mars InSight probe, which, as planned, ran out of energy completely due to the accumulation of dust on its solar panels, thus ending its mission. But getting back to Voyager, there are still a few valuable years of data to collect, and we don't want to lose it. And with any luck, we won't lose them. Because this is where the simple but secure software that the probes have programmed comes into play. It turns out that yes, Voyager 2 is now not pointed towards Earth. And of all the things that could happen, this was too critical. But the engineers in the 70s already knew this. And they also knew that they had to prevent this from happening at all costs, because it would mean the end of the mission. For this reason, they programmed the probe to restart its orientation several times a year to avoid precisely that due to an error in some command, its antenna would stop pointing towards the Earth and then there would be no way to send the command to it. Aim well again. NASA has announced that this next restoration should occur on October 15th, which should ultimately allow communication with it to resume. But in the meantime, the most important thing now is for Voyager 2 to follow its planned trajectory during this period of disconnection from Earth. And in fact, while I was writing this script, something has happened. Something hopeful. On August 1st, after 1 week without connection to the probe, NASA drew up a plan to use a series of space and terrestrial antennas, the so-called NASA Deep Space Network, DSN, to try to detect even glancing at its weak signal. And they have achieved it. A few hours ago, NASA announced that they have detected a carrier signal from Voyager 2. A carrier signal is what the spacecraft uses to send data back to Earth. The signal, however, is too weak to extract data. We have barely managed to capture it, but the detection confirms that the ship is still operating. And most importantly, the ship also continues on its expected trajectory. NASA engineers didn't expect this effort to detect their signal to work, but yes, it has. And although the spacecraft is expected to point its antenna back toward Earth in mid-October, as we have already mentioned, the team will try to command Voyager before then. To do this, we are going to literally shout commands at it using a deep space network antenna and send a powerful signal with the command. We are literally going to shout at Voyager 2 to rotate its antenna those 2 degrees that it needs to be able to have a connection with Earth again. This attempt may not work, and NASA recognizes this in the statement that, by the way, I leave you in the description of the video in case you want to consult it. So in case this communication doesn't work, the team knows they will have to wait for the spacecraft to automatically reset its orientation in October. We will be attentive, because in case you had not noticed, the logo of this channel is inspired and dedicated to these Voyager probes that have been, are and will be a source of inspiration for space exploration. With them they travel with golden discs that tell how we are, where we are and what we know, in case they are one day found by beings from other civilizations. These golden records, known as Voyager Golden Records, contain a wide variety of images, sounds and music that represent cultural diversity and life on Earth. So everyone calm down, because our most distant probes still have a lot of war to give, and when they stop giving, the mission of delivering a message on behalf of humanity will continue to live. Hush. Hush.